It's almost playoff time in the MLB. We found out Justin Tucker can kick a football further than anyone in recorded human history, and Texas football got the better of Texas Tech, as usual. But will they drop the ball against upcoming TCU? Also, as usual. All this and more coming up on College Crossfire.
And their men's basketball team needs to stop social distancing themselves from fans.
But now it has been overdone to death. Playing, don't stop believing.
Bye-bye, Bucks. Bye-bye, Raptors.
All right, let's get to it.
Welcome to College. Thank you. Welcome to College Crossfire. I'm your host, Drew Jacob. Let's make the rounds. On first base, we've got David. David, happy to have you on.
I'm doing good. You know, Chiefs lost, so that's been on my mind this whole time. But we got Josh Gordon, so I'm good. But so we're rallying it back. We're going to run the Super Bowl, so I don't need to worry about it right now.
Hey,
it's not a problem right now.
Chiefs can't get the dub. Maybe you can, right?
Yeah, I like that.
Very good. On second base, we've got Matt, the boss. But first of all, I just want to say no special treatment for Matt. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, I'm a Giants fan, so you know.
Have you seen your upcoming schedule?
Yeah.
And on third base, we've got the other boss, John, who might get a little special treatment. I mean, come on, we all like John.
Yeah.
John, how are you doing? John, how are you doing?
I'm good for keeping with the NFL teams. The Ravens won, like you said. Justin Tucker, longest kick ever. So we're winning. We're vibing. We'll win tonight.
Very good, very good. And Justin Tucker is incredible, but we'll get to him later. All right, fellas, that's enough talk. Let's talk. Spirits are high in Austin after the Longhorns unleashed a beatdown of biblical proportions on the Texas Tech Red Raiders last Saturday to the tune of a 70-35 win. With Casey Thompson throwing for 300 yards and, get this, 5 touchdowns, Bijan Robinson gaining over 130 yards on the ground, and Cameron Dicker having mimosas and brunch on the sideline for his second week in a row with 0 punt attempts. There's not much to criticize about the offense. Still, the Horns did allow a troubling 35 points to a Red Raiders offense that hasn't looked all that, let's say, good. Obviously, no team's perfect, but my question is this. Despite the win, was there anything about Texas's performance that left you concerned? And if so, where do they need to improve the most? David, we'll start with you.
Well, does Sark watch the show? Because I think he literally listened to last week's takes from the whole panel about the offense. Offense looks fantastic. I'm super happy to see what Texas is doing on offense. Bijan got a receiving touchdown. There was pre-snap motion with Whittington across the backfield. There was fun offense. There was slinging the ball everywhere, points being scored. It was really great to see on that side of the ball. On defense, 35 points let up. I'm not too worried about that personally, though, because whenever you double a team's points like that, I mean, Texas had 70. That's 2 times 35.
The math
so
checks out, yeah.
you did all you got to do. math, yeah.
Very good.
I also liked one particular thing I saw on defense. They got really fun and creative. They did an I formation D-line rush, which I've never seen in my entire life, and I thought that was awesome, and it got pressure and almost a safety. There's a lot to be excited if you're a Texas fan.
I agree. And David, you know, we love your analysis, but also apparently your contributions to Texas football. So
Yes, thank you.
Matt, we're going to go into you next.
Well, I think there's a few things they got to work on, especially on the defensive side of the ball. They gave up 400 yards of passing to Texas Tech, and about 180 of those yards came off of 3 plays. Deshaun Jameson got burned twice on the deep ball. They really got to fix that up because coming into Saturday, he hasn't given up a touchdown in the pass coverage. Then you look at the penalties. They had some stupid penalties that got them, that led the Tech scores. You look at Brendan Schooler, he had that after the whistle suplex of the Tech wide receiver. And then Keelan Robinson on the block punt touchdown that was called back. He was in the neutral zone. If he wasn't in the neutral zone, he would have blocked it anyway. So it's shoring up the defense and the penalties what Tech's need to do to fix it.
No, yeah, and like I appreciate that analysis. A win's great, but it's not like all Tech's points came in garbage time. But anyway, John, moving on to you.
Well, you know, I definitely agree with Matt on this one. The defense definitely needs some improvement, especially going into Fort Worth this week and going up to OU the week after that. However, the big thing for me is, you know, sportsmanship. We don't need no sportsmanship. 70 points was not enough for this Texas team. A very interesting stat. Texas was 2 points away from breaking the highest score against another Big 12 opponent. 2 points away. Could have at least tried to kick a field goal or just go all out. We're burning bridges. Texas is trying to get out of the SEC, and sportsmanship just don't need it.
Look, I agree. I was sitting on my couch like yelling more than I've ever yelled during a blowout win because of the scoring record thing. Yeah, so good takes from everybody, but I'm gonna have to go ahead and give Matt the 3. David, I liked your cheery outlook on things, so you're gonna get the 2. And John, I'm sorry to say, you will be getting the 1. Don't worry though, a lot of game left. Moving on to our next question, and I want everyone listening to brace yourselves because this might be shocking. Texas might be underrated.
What?
I know. I can't believe it either.
First time ever.
This comes after the AP polls release on Sunday, with voters leaving Texas 1 spot out of the top 25 rankings. This was a source of some controversy because, number 25 Clemson was given a spot despite their loss to North Carolina State last weekend and otherwise pretty weak resume. So, dear panelists, I would like you to state your case as to which team, Texas or Clemson, deserves to be the top 25's caboose going into Week 5. Matt, we're going to start with you on this one.
Well, I think the easy answer is Texas. They're 3-1. Clemson's 2-2. They lost to an unranked NC State, and they lost to Georgia, but they also only put up 3 points in that game. Texas, their average margin of victory is 37 points. They're blowing teams out of the water, and they're just playing really up to expectations that people thought would happen when Sark was going to be named head coach. And looking at it is the AP poll rankings because the preseason polls. I'm not a big fan of preseason polls because you have teams like A&M or Iowa State ranked super high, but then they fail to meet their expectations as usual. So I think Texas should be ranked, but however, them not being ranked I think might be better because Texas tends to play better when they're not ranked.
Yeah, I can see that, just leave a chip on these guys' shoulders, let them prove it over these next couple of weeks. All right, John, I'm going to go to you next.
I definitely think that Texas should be ranked over Clemson. As Matt said, they had these blowout wins, been scoring a ton of points, and their only loss is to a team that's now ranked in the top 10. And it's definitely unfortunate that Texas is in this position. But having done mock top 25 polls in the past, it's really just chance that Texas happened to be right below the cusp of that top 25. I think it was by 10 points.
Yeah.
So it's just unfortunate that that's how it happened. But because of that, I would basically say that they're tied.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the end of the world, and the margin's really, really slim. And you're right, that Arkansas loss, it's looking about as good as a blowout loss can be at this point. All right, David, what about you?
Well, I mean, I think the whole panel agrees on this one. Texas definitely should be ranked in the top 25.
Wow, imagine that. The
Yes.
Texas higher college
Yeah.
panel, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's a team that's only lost 1 game, and it's a team that was in the top 10 now, and a team that's looking really, really hot. Arkansas is quite on fire. But all of Texas's wins have been blowout victories. We have 113 scored points compared to like the other teams. Every victory combined 113 points more than them. That's a lot of points. It looks pretty good for the case for Texas to be in that top 25 spot. But yeah, these guys took all my points, so I'm trying to come up with stuff on the fly. But yeah, Texas top 25. Clemson's got 2 losses. And A&M, North Carolina, Iowa State. So many teams lost to it like last week. Mm-hmm. There's some room for Texas to be in the top 25.
No, absolutely. A lot of disappointing teams out in the top 25. Everyone except Alabama looks like they have some really, really serious issues. But yeah, I like the points all 3 of you guys made on this one. David, I'm going to give you the points on this one, 3. John, you're going to get the 2, and yeah, it's partially because of your very good pronunciation of Clemson. Not Clemson, not Clemson, Clemson. Very good. And Matt, sadly, you are going to get the 1 on this one. Looking ahead now, if there's one game a year that makes Texas fans go, it would be their upcoming opponent, TCU. Despite their loss to SMU last Saturday, there's always room for concern when the Horns meet the Horned Frogs, as Gary Patterson's seeming hatred of all things burnt orange has resulted in his team serving Bevo medium rare with a side of Texas fans' broken dreams more often than not. As such, he holds a 7-2 record against UT since 2012. With that being said, panelists, your task now is to convince me, one way or the other, which team should we expect to win this game? And John, you're going to start us off.
I think we should expect to see Texas win this game. Texas has the momentum. Thank you.
Crowd pleaser. It's a good answer.
Texas has the momentum going from this blowout Texas Tech win, and I think it's really important for Texas to win this game, not only just in the Big 12, but as the statement of Steve Sarkisian against the Big 12. Obviously, as you said, TCU has done a lot of hurt to Texas over the past couple of years, and having Steve Sarkisian not only play TCU, but go into Fort Worth and get a marquee win. They'll be big on Steve Sarkisian, showing him that the program might be turning a new leaf. It'll also be very important for this Texas team as they're going into a hostile environment, one that was absolutely disrespected in multiple ways last Saturday, from SMU to going into the week after that to OU, Red River. It'll be a big statement that the team can play in a hostile environment. They also turn over that leaf from that Arkansas loss. And a little plug here, you can check out @TSTV Sports on Twitter for live coverage from the Texas TCU game from myself and Miss Emmy Basnet.
Great stuff. Yeah, check it out. Go Emmy. No, this is true. I like it. Highlighting it, statement win. Young teams, they need that. These next 2 weeks, a lot of opportunities to do that. All right, Matt, we're going to come to you next.
So I think,
Switching up the order. I want to keep you on your toes.
Yeah.
So I actually think it's going to be a close game, and closer than a lot of people think. Because TCU, they're not a bad team. Like, you look at their offense; they have Max Duggan, Zach Evans, Quentin Johnson. That 1-2-3 punch right there. That's a really good offense, and their secondary is also really good. Sure, SMU put up 42 points last week, but I think that was a fluke. TCU was down; their whole defensive line was out, but they're going to be coming back this week. And as Steve Sarkisian said all week, is don't buy the lie. Basically saying that TCU last week is not the same TCU team that Texas is playing this week. This TCU team is going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be at home. They have a lot of hatred towards Texas. They're 7-2 against Texas since 2012. So I'll take this. I'll say this right now. I think TCU is going to win, but it's going to be a close one.
I don't listen to them. I respect where you're coming from. I don't like it either. But, yeah, David, we're going to move to you.
I got the complete opposite take. So, a very big staple of the Tom Herman era was playing down to their opponent. Well, Sark is here, long gone, are playing down to your opponent. Texas is going to blow the doors out of TCU. It ain't going to be close. Texas is far superior in every aspect of football. The only thing that I'm concerned about is that TCU is coming off a loss and the previous TCU experiences. I think TCU is going to have some grit to them. They're going to fight hard. It's going to start out as a close game, but as the second half rolls around, as some adjustments take place, I think Texas just blows the doors off this TCU team, and they continue their Big 12 dominance.
Very good. Man, one blowout, one Texas lost. I appreciate the bravery you guys showing on this panel this week. And for that, David, I'm going to give you the 3, Matt the 2, and John the 1.
Yeah, how come?
When we get back, we'll be looking at a different side of Texas athletics, trying to figure out the GOAT Longhorn, and talking playoff time in America's pastime. Stay tuned.
Woo, woo.
Welcome back to College Crossfire. Before we get started, let's take a look at the scoreboard. We have David leading with 8 points, Matt in second with 6 points, and in third place we've got John with 4. But I want to make it clear, you guys, it's anyone's game. Let's jump right back in. Starting off the round, it's time to find out who's the most well-rounded sports analyst with our non-revenue sport question of the week. On the table tonight is Texas men's tennis. In individual play at the Southern Intercollegiate Championships, sophomore Micah Braswell ended the day with a singles win over Ohio State's Justin Boulier, with Seem Waldib and Nevin Armilli secured an 8-4 win in doubles, also against players from the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
I hope my tone clearly indicates what I think of that nickname. Anyway, though team scoring won't begin until January, these results are promising for Texas's chances, despite the fact the school hasn't advanced past the semifinals of the championship tournament since they won it all in 2019, falling 4-0 to Florida in 2021 and losing in a blowout to their toughest opponent, COVID, in 2020. With what we've seen and keeping this in mind, what is Texas's ceiling for the upcoming team season, and can they reclaim their spot at the top? David, let's start with you.
Well, Texas only lost last time to the top-ranked Florida, the team that ended up winning the whole championship. So that's a pretty promising first look, you know? It's like with the Chiefs losing to the Bucs. Like, oh, we lost to the best team. Whatever.
Yeah.
But here's what happens. I think that right now, Florida has retained almost all of their tennis players. They still have the whole senior class. I think it's Florida's year this year. However, Texas, sophomores and juniors right now. Next year, after this year, is Texas's year. They're going to come back strong. Florida's going to lose all their people, all their players, and Texas is going to come and take that championship back, be back to 2019 form, be a great school for tennis. Finally, get us a national championship in something that's a major sport. And yeah, I like it. That's my take right now.
No, that's true, and this is a good point. All the tennis players from Texas who I mentioned winning at the last meet, they were 2 sophomores, 1 junior. So you're absolutely right about the future. Went out of order last time, so we're going to fix that here. John, we're coming to you next.
Well, I'm going to have to agree on this one. Unfortunately, we're kind of in the reverse situation with Texas volleyball as Texas men's tennis. As you said, Florida keeping this dominance, keeping all of their players. Texas got a little bit of a younger squad, but don't count them out. I think they're going to be a real challenge and a spoiler team for the other teams in tennis this year.
Spoiler team, very, very good. I wouldn't want the other teams to have their hopes spoiled. That would be a shame. Matt, we're coming to you next.
Well, I think that obviously last year they lost to Florida, but it's not like they're a bad team. They won the national championship 2 years ago, and then the COVID year. So it's only been 1 year, pretty much, 1 season since they won the national championship. You don't really see teams, even in pro sports, repeating as champions every single year. But I think that they're a good team. They have a good ceiling, and I'm going to use a metaphor that Michael Jordan used a couple years ago when talking about the North Carolina football team. He said the ceiling is the roof. And being the fact that the football team plays outside, there is no roof, so they have a pretty high ceiling. So I think Texas tennis team has a high ceiling.
All right, MJ.
That was some hard-hitting analysis. And Matt, for that, you are getting the 1. John, I'm going to give you the 3. David,
Really?
the 2. Great showing, everybody. Moving on. Man, imagine being a Detroit Lions fan. Whew.
They're still good.
Well, that's enough of that, because this question is not about the Detroit Lions. No, instead, we're going to be discussing the Longhorn legend who broke hearts all over Michigan last Sunday, setting a new NFL record with a 66-yard walk-off field goal to secure the win for the Baltimore Ravens. Now, after I picked my jaw up off the floor, I found myself thinking about just how special Justin Tucker really is. This show's only a half hour long, so I don't have time to list all of his accolades, but the man's a 6-time All-Pro, unanimous vote for the 2010s All-Decade team, the single most accurate kicker in NFL history, Super Bowl champion. I know he's a kicker. Believe me, I know how crazy this sounds, but at this point, considering his college and pro success, I have to ask, is Justin Tucker the greatest Longhorn athlete of all time? Matt, let's start with you.
So do you mean athlete or just football?
Athlete. I think there's a case to be made.
Yeah, I don't know about that. You got guys from Texas like KD, Roger Clemens, Cat Osterman, football players like Jamal Charles, Ricky Williams, Earl Campbell. Justin Tucker is great in his own sense, has good accolades, but he's a kicker. And kickers, their job is to kick the ball for field goals and PATs. He's not running over anybody like Earl Campbell. He's not running through guys like Ricky Williams and dunking on people like KD. So yes, Justin Tucker's a great Longhorn, but greatest of all time, no.
All right. I guess you're just sort of putting a cap on how good a kicker can be, and I understand they are.
Let him run through someone.
Fair enough. John, what do you have to say?
First of all, I want to disagree with Matt on this one. I think he's not giving Justin Tucker enough credit. However, my Longhorn legend is going to be Nikki Bush-Ziegler. She was a member of the Texas volleyball team the late 80s, early 90s, and she helped them go to 4 straight Southwest Conference title championships. She also, in her freshman season, helped the team bring in the 2nd natty in school history. And she went on to participate on the U.S. national team, not Olympic Games, but separate Olympic events. And she was just inducted into the Longhorn Athlete Hall of Fame. So when you look at athletes who have really made an impact to university and as a sport in general, Nikki Bush-Ziegler.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Shouting out someone, outside of just football and basketball. I mean, this school plays so many sports. So yeah, it's really good to shout those guys out. David, what do you have?
Well, not only is he the greatest Longhorn athlete of all time, he's the greatest Raven athlete of all time as well. Justin Tucker, give him his 99 rating in Madden, 66 yards, 50 consecutive field goals in the 4th quarter and in overtime. That is crazy. That is a guaranteed win if you get on one side of the 50-yard line. That is just unheard of. That is like a guaranteed win. Gosh, I would have loved to have Justin Tucker, even though Harrison Butker's a good kicker. Justin Tucker is the best kicker in all NFL history. Give this man his due. 99 in Madden. Come on, why is he 87? Ridiculous.
I have to give claps for that. Whoa. I think Matt disrespected it.
Hey,
Just
you give that man
Kickers
his roses.
kickers
you
have
give him
feelings.
His roses.
Kickers have feelings.
And you get 3 points.
Thank you.
John, I'm giving you the 2 on this one. And Matt, Disrespectful to Justin Tucker. 1 point. Shifting gears now, despite being on the tail end of the MLB season, and despite the fact that approximately 11 billion games of baseball have been played, give or take a few, the American League Wild Card race is coming down to the wire with 5 hopeful teams still in contention for 2 spots. The Yankees are in control by 2.5 games, while the Pepsi to their Coke, the Boston Red Sox are holding desperately to the second spot, with the Mariners, Blue Jays, and Athletics each within 3.5 games of each other. Suffice to say, things are getting a little cramped in here. With the walls closing in, which of these teams do you see making it out of the wild card scene alive? And just as important, will your pick make a deep run when they get there? John, let's go to you.
You know what? I'm going to have to say the Boston Red Sox. Boston proud. You know, I spent a lot of time in Boston, and, you know, they're really passionate. And I think that passionate fan base is going to help overcome the haters in the American League, overcome some terrible Yankees fans like Mr. Matt Marinchak or Mr. Danny Shee.
Very good. I like calling out your fellow panelists. I like the moxie. David, we got you next.
So I really like the Mariners this year. You know, the last time they went to the playoffs, I was like a month old, and that's really interesting to me. And I think that this team has really shown a lot of grit and determination in the second half of the season. Their rookie is finally starting to look like a pro-level MLB player, and I don't know, they just seem to find wacky ways to win, and they just want to win. They want it. I know it's like an overused saying in sports, they want it more, but they want this. They need this. Those fans need it. I've seen some interviews from some of their fan base. They need this playoff spot. They're going to get it. The Mariners are going to do it for their fan base.
Very good. And you know, I agree. It is weird seeing the Mariners be good. Feels like that hasn't been the case all my life, but I like it. I like the appeal to the fan base.
It's like the Fluke Royal season. Yeah.
Debatable. Matt, we're coming to you next.
Well, obviously the Yankees, that's the only real answer to this. Sorry, Red Sox, you guys just got swept by 3 games, but whatever. But yeah, the Yankees, they had a good run earlier in the season, 13 games in a row. Up until tonight, they were on a 6-game winning streak. So you know, when they get hot, they get hot. From top to bottom, their lineup is great. They have great hitters. Pitching, they have a good starting rotation. The bullpen, they could handle themselves. I wouldn't really depend on them, but with the starting pitching and the hitters, the Yankees can get ahead of it. And I think when they do make the playoffs, they will make some noise. I want to see them go up against the Astros. Astros fans are talking a lot of smack the last couple of years after that Jose Altuve walk-off. But you look at this year, though, the Yankees beat the Astros 4 out of 6 games. So I want to see Yankees go in there, beat the Astros. They'll be making some noise in the playoffs this year.
Well, you know, Matt, I really like the analysis. I really like you standing up for yourself, being a Yankees fan. I know it's not easy. And I also like that you addressed the second part of the question, you know, regarding how deep of a run the team is going to make. So for that, I'm going to give you the 3, David the 2, and John the 1. Coming up next, we're putting the fellas on the hot seat with Rapid Fire here on College Crossfire. You will not want to miss it. Woo!
Nice.
Welcome back to College Crossfire, and now it's time for Rapid Fire. In this round, and everyone, sing it with me if you know the words, the points are worth double, and that means it's
Anybody's
game! Woo! Very good. The best way to spread Christmas cheer is by streaking loud after some $8 beers. This is true in Austin, at least, as Santa Claus himself, or for the children at home, one of his helpers, made an appearance at Darrell K. Royal Texas Memorial Stadium this past Saturday, running onto the field during the Texas Tech game before being subdued by security, landing everyone on staff on the naughty list. While I'm sure we all appreciate the early visit, I would have preferred for Santa to leave something nice for Texas football before his appearance was cut short, like, I don't know, a high-end offensive line transfer, for example. With that in mind, tell us what the most important thing on your favorite team's Christmas list should be. David, we're going to start with you.
So by favorite team, do you mean Texas or our NFL
Not
team?
Texas. Not
Okay.
Texas. Any favorite team, any other major sport?
All right. Chiefs, we needed a wide receiver, and we got one. Josh Gordon coming to town, baby. Everyone is really like against this signing. They're like, oh, he's washed, he's old. They all said the same thing when AB went to Tampa Bay, and look what he got, a Super Bowl ring. So I think that's going to happen again. I really like Josh Gordon. He's done the work. I've actually spoken to a friend of his, and he seems to be in a really good position right now. I personally am pulling for Josh. I think he's going to be the spark. He's going to get Tyreek open. Tyreek has not been open the last 2 weeks. He has been getting triple teamed by some of these teams. Like, And without Tyreek, I mean, in the turnovers that the Chiefs have been having, I think Josh adds a stability and some diversity that offense has been lacking.
This is true. If he can get on the field, yeah. I just want to mention one thing. It's rapid fire. I don't know why I called it to David. Someone jump in. Whoever.
Oh, I'm a Giants fan. So, yeah, we're 0-3.
I feel sorry.
Worst offense in the league. What I want, Jason Garrett needs to get fired. There's a reason why he got fired from the Cowboys. He calls the most vanilla playbook in the league. Get rid of him, get us some offense. That's why we're 0-3.
You don't want a franchise quarterback or something? All right.
Danny Dimes is good. I
He's
like
been
Danny
good,
Dimes.
yeah.
Sure.
Classic New York.
And John, that would leave you.
Well,
Nothing's ever.
I'm a big Croatian national football team fan, and with that, you know, we've had a lot of dominant players in the past. You know, Luka Modric, etc. There's more. I promise. However, in this recent Euro Cup and Cups coming up, you know, a lot of those old guys, they're retiring. So we just need a lot of better younger players. Unfortunately, the performance in the Euro Cup and recently wasn't that good, especially some of the hometown guys. I don't know if y'all were seeing Dynamo Zagreb in the Champions League, lost to some no-name team from not even a state. They're from Moldova, but it's like a breakaway state in Moldova, and Dynamo Zagreb lost there. So the hometown guys need to really step it up so we can beef up that Croatian national team coming into the World Cup.
You know, I really respect the deep poll on this one, so I'm giving you the points for it. Next up, you guys are not going to believe this, but Nick Saban lost his patience with a reporter.
Whoa!
I was shocked.
Whoa.
I was
Crazy.
shocked. When asked at a press conference what the Tide tight end Jaleel Billingsley had done to earn increased playing time in Alabama's most recent win against Florida, the always jovial Saban said this.
Any of you play sports? I mean, the coach is supposed to play the best players, right? And then it's up to the players to do what they're supposed to do so they get to play because they become one of the best players. So that's what he's doing now. But I don't know, maybe if you didn't play, maybe that's not something that you quite get.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Nick. You're talking to a room full of sports journalists here. I think you know the short answer is yes, and the long answer is yes, but not very well. But hey, no shame in that. Sports are hard. I got nephewed on freshman B team enough to know this. But the real question is this. Is football even the hardest sport out there? So, to the undrafted NFL free agents on tonight's panel, feel free to jump in. What is the hardest sport to master and play?
Well, first off, I want to criticize Nick Saban a little bit. I know they're trying to get that money from the Coca-Cola company, but in that particular clip, I don't think he had it. But in previous press conferences, he has a bottle of Dasani up there. Why are you trying to get Dasani? Is the worst water. I digress. You know, I think the hardest sports has got to be like the marathon, the triathlon, these extended events, especially in the Olympics, that push you know, humans to the limit. You know, even if you're looking back in the day, like the 1904 Olympics in St. Louis, you know, people were passing out, dying, just walking away. These are tough things. They push you to the limit, and there's no break. So
Certainly, no. It's certainly the sport that makes me go, no way, the most. So I agree with that.
I'll have to say, obviously it's in swimming and diving, the diving part, going all the way up there, tens, hundreds of feet up in the air on the diving platform. They're pretty high up. But,
hundreds of
Thousands.
but you know, jumping down there, flipping, doing the flips, trying to land at a perfect like angle so you don't hurt yourself. I feel that's pretty challenging. A normal person probably couldn't do that, so I'd say it's pretty hard.
That is true. And, you know, they have to, like, make a little splash. That sounds pretty difficult to me.
Well, you know, for me, you know, there's tons of great sports out there, and everything, like, you know, highlights a different part of what the human can do. Like, you got the quads of steel of those bike cyclists in the Tour de France. You have this, I could never swim across, like, a lap pool in Olympic swimming, like Phelps. Like, that just, oh boy. But I still think that football is probably the most intensive sport out there in terms of like conditioning. And I do like the stories and opportunities that football presents for its athletes and the opportunities it does give. And I think it is the hardest sport. And it's not only the hardest sport because of like, oh, you're just the biggest guy, you can maul over a weak linebacker. No, you have guys like Justin Tucker who are the best at their sport for a different reason. And I love the picture of DK Metcalf sitting next to Rodrigo Blankenship, just to show you that anybody has their purpose in the NFL, and that's why I really like it. I think it's the toughest sport, but for multiple different reasons.
I like this. I like the football is in a way for everybody. I like that. So John, you are going to get the points on that one. Next up, in preparation for the upcoming NBA season, Toronto's Raptors players were asked to draw from memory their own depictions of the Ovo Owl logo in celebration of Toronto's favorite son and award-winning rapper and former Degrassi star
Oh my
Drake.
God.
I'll be honest, most of the art pieces that came out of this were looking hot trash. But it's the thought that counts. So, panelists, I hope you are feeling inspired because your final task is to draw us a beautiful portrait of Texas's favorite steer, beautiful Bevo 15. Get to it. Start drawing.
Should we commentate while we draw what we're doing
I
here?
want to know what you guys are thinking. So what's the approach you're going for?
You know,
you going photorealistic? Or,
I think I need his body in there.
Right.
I think it's
That's
very
good
important, very
to have
crucial.
his body. I'm curious, are we going to see caricatures? Are we going to see still life portraits? Okay, Matt, you got a nice oval to start. I'm really enjoying this.
This is not what I wanted.
This is not what I expected.
Man, you're just doing it over.
Bevo is thick.
Bevo's thick.
Yeah, Bevo is pretty thick.
Bevo's thick.
You know, headshot.
I know.
Yeah. I feel like we would have suspected something was happening if we saw cameras behind us, though.
Oh, there's a
That's
camera
true.
up
We tried to
there
keep
they
it really
could've used.
sleepy. Matt, this is coming together. I was doubting it at first, but I'm going to be real with you.
Why did John let him connect the dots?
All right, moving on, you guys. All right, 10,
Whoa,
9,
hey.
I know, right? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's see these Bevos. Show everybody your. So that.
That's a donkey. That's a donkey, bro.
That does look like a
Man,
donkey.
Donkeys ain't got the horns.
That's a donkey.
But look at my horns. It's the biggest of horns.
That is.
You see, I have the number 1 because Bevo's number
This
1
is
mascot.
this is called the last
Bevo's
4
number
second
one.
horns.
Bevo is mouth's wide open.
Bevo's number 1.
Look at those horns. You can see from here. They're bigger than my head. It's
Very
beautiful.
good. Very good. Matt, I love yours. I love that you added the number 1 to it. I'm going to give you the points on this one. However, David is getting the win. Do we have time for FaceTime? No FaceTime.
Nah,
David,
again, y'all are.
David, tell me about it after the show. Congratulations. 2 in a row, right?
Yes,
Oh
yes.
my gosh, 2 in a row for David. Hopefully he comes on next week to see if he can three-peat. But that is past our time. So it's time for us to call this episode of College Crossfire to a ceasefire.
This was a waste
Don't
of
forget to follow us on
can
all
be
the social medias at TSTV Sports on Twitter and Instagram. Lastly, be sure to wake up for the Want to Know Sports Show Friday mornings at 10 a.m., right? For all the panelists and everyone in studio and Master Control, I'm Drew Jacob. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Yeah.
Yeah.